I'm going to be moderating the panel later, and then you'll also hear from me from the state side, so I hope you don't get sick of me. But for now, I want to introduce our chair, Miriam Czar, who's going to give a few updates and introduce some of the guests that we have here today.
Hi everyone, thank you all for being here. For those of you who are familiar with us, you know that we try to have these meetings on a monthly basis. We've been around for almost 2 years, so for a lot of you, you've been sort of at our side shepherding us through this journey for well, at least 18 months. So welcome to our June community meeting. The Task Force on Homelessness started at the Pacific Palisades Community Council. Chris, where are you? Thank you. So the task force started at the Pacific Palisades Community Council. We were not an organized group. We were just a community organization. We were a community group, really. We were some volunteers who kind of raised our hand and volunteered to take on this committee, and Chris appointed us, and then Stephanie Cohen from Assemblymember Bloom's office came and sort of coalesced us and asked for a chair, and I raised my hand and I became the chair. And then we had a meeting where we talked about all the things we thought we needed to address, and based on that meeting we assigned a few subcommittees and heads of those subcommittees, and that became our leadership committee. So we've done everything that we've done in the last year and a half just based on that sort of loose organization. But yesterday, we, as a group, actually a couple of weeks ago, we filed our articles of incorporation to become a 501c3. So, we did file our articles of incorporation. I was the incorporator. And yesterday, there we go.
There you go.
And so yesterday we had a meeting where we chose our board of directors and our new executive committee under the auspices of the Pacific Palisades Task Force on Homelessness, which will now be an incorporated 501c3. And our new president is Doug McCormick. So congratulations to everyone in this town and to the task force for coming all this way and forming a formation. So, thank you, Carol. Nice to see you. Our friends from Malibu, all in the front row. Nice to see you all. So this meeting came together largely because Doug reached out to the mayor's office and asked for Alyssa or Duna to join us. Alyssa couldn't be here today, so Melissa Miller, I'm Melissa from the mayor's office, is here. She's the policy analyst for the mayor's office. And I had been asked a few months ago to head down to South Bay and speak to some of our northern neighbors about what they've been doing about coastal homelessness along their shores. And over the course of the last year or so, 6 months or so, I've been talking to Malibu about what they're doing about their homelessness issues along their shores. So we thought in this June meeting, where it is really a transition point for us, where I'm going out and Doug is coming in, and we're moving away from just being a loose entity into an organized entity. Wouldn't it be nice if we brought our coastal neighbors to talk about what we're all doing about homelessness, especially going into summer and with light rail coming in? We have two other very special guests. We have Molly Rysman from the supervisor's office. She has actually been at our side for quite a while. She was one of our first guests before we decided to engage the OPCC, and OPCC partners are here also, you'll hear from them. And she was actually very encouraging, and she kind of helped light the path for us, so we appreciate that you're back here with us today. And we have Jim Lotto from Beverly Hills, not a coastal city, as you all know, but still a city that has done very well dealing with its homeless, I don't want to say issues, but with its homeless situation. So we're excited to hear from you too. We've truncated this, or we've split this meeting into two parts. First, we're going to hear from our elected officials. Daniel Tamm is also here, our Palisadian friend from the mayor's office. So we're going to hear first from our elected officials, and then we'll have a little Q&A. Then we'll get an update from the OPCC team about how it's going here in the Palisades, OPCC, and our senior lead officer, Michael Moore from the LAPD, who's also a very big part of our two-pronged approach to homelessness. And then we'll hand it over to our coastal friends, and I'll sit at the panel too, so we can all talk about what we've been doing up and down the coast to deal with homelessness. So I will hand it over to Melissa from the mayor's office, or Daniel. State's going first, and our vice chair, Stephanie Cohen.
So, Lila, do you want to go first? You want me to go first? Okay. So at the state level, there's been a huge outpouring response to homelessness. Just this year, prior to this year, there have been some efforts to address homelessness, but not as strongly as it's happened this year. Lila's going to talk about some big budget items that are going through in this, that initiated in the Senate. But on the Assembly side, there are a lot of housing bills, which we see, especially my boss, Assemblymember Bloom, sees as one of the most important things in homelessness services, be able to provide housing. And as we all know, we have a huge lack of affordable housing, not just for homelessness, but for middle class people as well. So we have 3 bills that have been endorsed by the governor, so we're hoping that those get through. What those bills do, just an overview, is they protect our current stock of affordable housing while making it easier to create additional units of affordable housing. So those have made it out of the Assembly. They're in the Senate right now. We had a House of Origin deadline last week, which means that all bills that originated in one house have to be in the next house. So those 3, and then there are a slew of other housing and budget proposals that are going through the State Assembly and Senate right now. So hopefully I'll have a better update once the budget passes on June 15th. Because we'll know more specifics about what's going to be allocated to homelessness services and housing. So I'll pass it to Lila, and she can give you some updates as well.
Hello everybody, I'm Lila Kalaf. I work for Senator Ben Allen. So as Stephanie mentioned, the budget deadline is June 15th at midnight. Budget must pass or the legislators don't get their pay, so we can count on the budget to pass. And that was a result of a proposition from voters, so good work voters on that. And there's 3 main initiatives that have been originating in the Senate and working through the legislature. So I'm going to talk briefly about those 3 initiatives that are addressing homelessness. The first one has gotten a lot of press. It's a bipartisan initiative called No Place Like Home. It was announced at the beginning of the year by the President Pro Tem Kevin De Leon. Basically, it would finance the building of new permanent supportive housing for homeless people living with mental illness. So that's a big chunk of what it does. It also is increasing income supports for people living in poverty. So in various ways through CalWORKs, through SSI. So that's the big thrust of the No Place Like Home initiative, and Senator Allen is part of the bipartisan coalition in the Senate pushing that forward. Governor Brown showed his support in the May revise of the budget for the No Place Like Home initiative as well. So that's the first big Senate initiative on homelessness. Another bill that just passed out of the Senate, SB 879, the Affordable Housing Bond Act. So that was authored by Senator Bell, would authorize the issuance of bonds for a total amount of $3 billion. So, bonds that people could purchase, and then that money would go $2 billion. $3 billion. That's the current state of this bill. Is that people could buy bonds up to the total of $3 billion. And the sale of the bonds would be used to finance existing housing programs and further affordable housing throughout the state. So if it passes out of the Senate, if it passes and gets signed by the governor, that's what it would do. And then the third big push is SB 1380. That's authored by Senator Holly Mitchell, and my boss, Senator Allen, is a co-author on that bill. And that would create a homeless coordinating and financing council for the whole state. So right now, a big issue that we're having, and that we've had for many years, is that there hasn't ever been a coordinated effort across the state between the counties to really have the same kind of approach to homelessness and to be cooperating. And so this council would provide the leadership to do that, and we would transition the state into a housing first model, which we have seen to be the most effective for a lot of communities. So those are the big 3, and I'm going to pass it off to whoever's next.
So I have a PowerPoint, if we can get it up, and I'll probably stand just so I can see folks better. So I'm Molly Reisman. I work for Supervisor Sheila Kuehl and do her housing and homelessness policy in the county. So as everyone knows, obviously we've seen an increase in homelessness on our streets, and that created a much greater interest in homelessness at the county and trying to figure out how to address it. The county touches folks who are homeless in many different ways because we are the social safety net. So whether people are interacting with law enforcement and ending up in our jails, or becoming homeless because they come out of foster care, or using health services in our hospitals, or accessing mental health through our Department of Mental Health, the county touches folks who are experiencing homelessness quite deeply. So it was incumbent upon us to figure out how we could do more. We've done a lot. The county passed a
Which file?
let's see here. Oh, you need to go back out. Sorry, there should be a folder. If we go higher, there we go. Oh, okay, so go down. Sorry. Sorry about this.
Those are the folders.
Those are the folders. You know what? Let's skip the presentation.
Good, okay.
I'm sure I could figure it out if I came over there, but it's probably not worth the time. So the county's been doing a lot. They passed a homeless prevention initiative in 2006, and it was definitely time to sort of take a new look at homelessness. So last August, we decided to start a very comprehensive planning process to look at what we're doing on homelessness and what more we could do. That planning process lasted for 6 months. It involved 18 policy summits, 4 focus groups with people who have lived experience with homelessness, 2 very large community meetings, and in addition to the community meetings, about 200 public comments were received. So between all of those different processes, over 1,000 people touched that process and participated in some way. And that really fed the county's thinking because we really wanted to focus on collaboration. Homelessness, part of the reason it's so tricky to solve homelessness is because it touches so many different people and so many different levels of government. And so we really wanted to figure out, using this process, how do we increase collaboration? So that resulted in a plan that's in my giant binder here of 47 strategies to address homelessness in the county. And all of those are prefaced on emphasizing collaboration, leveraging mainstream resources, really, in addition to the money we put in, how do we use what we have more efficiently? The 47 strategies are broken up into 6 categories. So I'll go over what they cover. I'm not going to go into every single one of them in detail because it would take way too long. But the 6 categories are strategies that help us prevent homelessness. The biggest one of those is a program we're doing around preventing family homelessness. Strategies that help us subsidize housing. At the core of homelessness is the issue that people can't afford a home. So what can we do to make homes more affordable? The biggest strategy that we're doing in that category is rapid rehousing. We've put, I believe it's $24 million into rapid rehousing. Third category is increasing income. The other way to help make housing more affordable is to help people have the income they need to be able to pay rent. So how can we increase income? Fourth category is around services. A lot of folks, in addition to needing to be able to afford a home, may need some support to be successful in their home. So how do we increase what we do around case management and other social services so people can really succeed? The fifth one is around coordinating our systems. We talk a lot about silos, and it's one of our biggest challenges, is how do we get the jail system to talk to the mental health system, to talk to the foster care system, to talk to law enforcement? How do we bring all of these groups together so that our systems are coordinated and people don't get lost in any particular system that they're touching at that moment? And the 6th strategy is around increasing the supply of housing. So we can try and make housing more affordable, but at the heart of our homeless crisis is the issue that we do not have enough housing in Los Angeles. That is why rents have gone up so dramatically, is we have not been building enough housing. So we've also, in addition to subsidizing housing, we want to increase the supply of housing. And like I said, between all 6 of those categories, there's 47 strategies. We have a lot to overcome. We did a gap analysis looking really closely at the resources we have, and we are in quite a bit of a deficit. If we really wanted to end homelessness, what the gap analysis found is that we'd have to create about 15,000 more units of permanent supportive housing. That's going to take a lot of resources and a lot of work, although some of these strategies are very promising to get us there. We'd need housing for about 8,000 people to access rapid rehousing. So again, a lot to get to, but we're starting. We also need more emergency shelter. The gap analysis found that we need about 2,200 more beds of emergency shelter in the county. And then we need to be doing prevention, because one of our biggest challenges right now, we're actually housing more people at a faster rate than we've ever housed before in our homeless system, and the problem is the inflow of people into homelessness. For every 10 people that we get out of homelessness, 11 or 12 are falling into homelessness, which is why even though we're doing a ton, our numbers continue to go up. So we've got to address the prevention side of this and stop that inflow into homelessness. So you may have seen quite a bit in the papers right now that to address this gap, we've got to look at revenue. The supervisors committed an additional $100 million of one-time funds on top of what we were already doing to get these strategies off the ground, but it's one-time funds and it's not going to be enough. So we are looking very actively, and it's what's sort of taking up most of our time right now, is trying to figure out how do we get the resources to address those gaps in our system. And we're looking at many different revenue sources. We've not settled on a particular one. We're trying all sorts of things. It may take a while, but we'd really like to do what we can. So that's where the county's at. I'm going to pass it on to Melissa, but I will be here to answer questions after we get to the panel.
And Danielle Tamm, who's our representative, our area or regional representative.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks, Molly. Thanks, Melissa. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. I'm Daniel Tamm. I represent Mayor Garcetti in the West area of Los Angeles, and I know many of you from the community council meetings, the bi-monthly community council meetings, which I get to once a month when I'm as diligently as I can. Okay. So I'm going to pass this off to Melissa, my colleague in the mayor's office, in a moment. I just wanted to say, Molly touched on collaboration, and this has been, no one's going to get anything done in government of any substance worth talking about unless people are working together. And Molly's been, in this for years, and she understands that really, really well. And everybody else does too. I mean, Stephanie and others who have been working in government and challenged by the fact of the crisis of people experiencing homelessness. One of the most frustrating issues we deal with. And it doesn't make it any better when people don't work together. And for a long, long time, that's the way it was. So Mayor Garcetti really invested himself in reaching out, building relationships, to find consensus about housing first, for instance, as a way to go forward, so that it's the Board of Supervisors, the City Council too, by the way. Councilmember Bonin has been superlative in taking action. Richard Bloom, Senator Allen, really out front. And let's not forget Congressmember Ted Lieu, who, with his connection with the Veterans Administration, has been working really, really hard for a long time on helping with veterans homelessness, where there's been a lot of success. And we've seen when we focus on a specific area of homelessness, good things happen. So we're trying to duplicate that process, to replicate that process over and over again in different areas. If it's family homelessness, if it's individual chronic homelessness, when we focus like a laser in this one given area, good things happen. So I'm going to bring up something else a little bit later before I pass it over to Melissa right now. Mayor Garcetti, as you probably know, has committed $138 million in the budget It's been the most significant investment ever, I believe. That's ultimately not going to be enough. That's for the fiscal year 2016-2017. Eventually, sooner rather than later, a dedicated stream of funding is going to have to be found. And we may be hearing something about that later on, just after the summer. It may come in the form of a ballot initiative or something. But there are people who are looking very closely at how do we solve this problem of making sure that we have the funding that's necessary to do the job. In the meantime, Mayor Garcetti is really, his stance is that he wants to invite Angelenos, ordinary people, all of us, throughout the city, everywhere in the city, every corner of the city, to take ownership of this issue. Because the Board of Supervisors, the state government, the city council, the mayor's office, we're not ultimately going to solve the problem. It's going to be all of us working together. And along those lines, the mayor's announced today, actually, the Welcome Home Project, which is, part of that is parties where just ordinary Angelenos will invite folks into their homes, 10 or 20 people in your living room talking about the issue. The mayor's office will support with talking points and activities to really focus the conversation. And then folks are then invited to, bring an item that will fill a laundry basket. And that's going to be delivered to fire stations all over the city, those baskets. And they will in turn then be delivered to folks who are actually moving into permanent supportive housing. So we want to keep the focus. We want to keep, everyone looking at permanent supportive housing as the way to go, where to dedicate our resources of time, energy, and money. And really to, as you've done really, really well here with the task force, is that you've taken the position that these folks are our neighbors. Some of us here just find it a scourge, and it has to be dealt with immediately. We don't care how, but many, many others have taken the position, these folks are our neighbors. They live here. And you've discovered this firsthand, and you've encountered this, and you're dealing with it in a really positive way. So with that, I want to turn it over to Melissa, who's going to give you a little bit of where the mayor's at, what he's been working on, and some of the more nitty-gritty. So Melissa Miller from the Homelessness Policy Team at the Mayor's Office. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. My PowerPoint might also just have to go out in an email. And the important parts of that were really the charts and the data and the visuals. Some of it is hard to really wrap your head around and fathom until you see the statistics. And homelessness is in every community. The 2016 homelessness count just came out. The data would reflect that it impacts all populations, and to address the needs of the residents in LA City and to ensure that city services are provided regardless of housing status, the mayor's prioritized addressing homelessness as one of the top priorities of his administration. And essentially, the strategy of the mayor comes down to a three-pillar approach. One, house those who are currently homeless through a housing first. Oh, okay. Well, you can skip to the next one. Here's some of the numbers from the count. The next slide, or the next one too. So I put in your council district to compare, and it aligns in many ways and differs in some ways, obviously, from the homeless count, is where this is coming from. So you can keep clicking. So this is a three-pillar approach. One is housing, which I just talked about. 2 is prevention, preventing residents who have homes from falling into homelessness through things that my colleagues have talked about, expanding financial stability tools, including increased wages, job opportunities, and affordable housing. Sorry, I need water. And the 3rd is street engagement. Implement a street-based plan that protects public health and public safety while also addressing the civil rights of people experiencing homelessness and striking the right balance. And also identifying the good work that we're already doing and replicating that and expanding that where possible. This is a list of some of our actions to date which align with our 3-pillar approach. The Mayor's Office has led efforts to work collaboratively with the county, which is a historic partnership. We've also released our counterpart to the plan that Molly had mentioned, the city's comprehensive homelessness strategies. And in it, we list 64 recommendations to address homelessness based on national best practices. We've increased funding for homelessness outreach by $3 million. We've increased our winter shelter program beds by 50%. We've leveraged philanthropic funding to sponsor more outreach services to connect winter shelter residents to our coordinated entry system. And for the first time in our city's recent history, we've used general fund dollars for housing vouchers and have allocated $10 million for rapid rehousing. Some of the most recent developments are LAPD HOPE teams, which are homeless outreach and proactive engagement teams, and they're being deployed through a partnership of the Office of the Mayor, the City Attorney, LAPD, Bureau of Sanitation, LAHSA, and the county in many ways. And the purpose of the teams is to improve the city's overall response to the complex and diverse needs of our unsheltered residents and support healthy neighborhoods. So we are sending out our HOPE teams to respond to neighborhoods, issues, and concerns, and to develop strategies for dealing with situations that arise among our unsheltered residents. And the Mayor's Office is providing the programmatic oversight for these teams, and our Policy Director, Lisa, serving as a program lead. Internal storage, I'm happy to talk more about that if there's questions after. I think my presentation might be a little long. But as we're rolling out the HOPE pilot, the gist of it is that we're preparing to deal with more regular and more increasing calls for encampment cleanups, and we need to deal with that by temporarily providing storage capacity. We have some on Skid Row downtown, but it's limited, and we're working on identifying properties where we can develop storage. And veteran homelessness, at the beginning of our homelessness efforts at the Mayor's Office, we announced our goal to reach functional zero for veterans homelessness during this administration. As of March 15, we've placed 7,631 veterans in jobs through our 10,000 Strong initiative. And since January 1st, 2014, we've housed over 6,000 homeless veterans. We're aiming by December to house an additional, or not additional, but house over 8,000 to reach our functional zero goal. I'm going to talk a little bit about our funding strategy. The mayor recently released his 2016-2017 budget proposal, which was approved, well, it was released last month, but it was approved recently by council, no changes. And it included a historic funding level of $138 million dedicated to homelessness housing and services. Expenditures for this funding include a 62% allocation of permanent supportive housing and an expansion of the city's rapid rehousing program, 22% for supportive services, including targeted homelessness programs among city departments, and 12% for homeless facilities, including enhancement to recreation and parks facilities, and 4% for administrative expenses. And if you're wondering where this is coming from, that's what this slide is. The budget proposal includes one-time general fund revenues and special program funds. I'm happy to answer more questions about the details of this later, but there's also potential city ballot initiatives coming up, contingent on our upcoming discussions and seeing what the county's plans are as well. And then this essentially shows the flow between those two graphs. So I thought it was cool. It's something our data people put together, but basically the special funds, $6.4 million, where that's going, where the general fund dollars are going, where affordable housing linkage fee is going, and what we're doing with the city properties, including reusing and selling city properties to raise $47 million. On the regulatory front, click again. The biggest movement has been 5611. The mayor's strategies incorporate national best practices, like I said, and one of that is a focus on decriminalization of homelessness. And the mayor led an effort to reform 5611 ordinance. And essentially what the amendment does is defines unattended versus attended property and establishes response protocols. It reduces the amount of personal items that an individual can have on the street to 60 gallons, which is about equal to a shopping cart. Seeks to keep public areas clear, so to not interfere with city operations, businesses, and be ADA compliant. It restricts tents from being erected from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Defines and prohibits bulky items, including tiny homes, which are a hot topic, so I'm happy to talk about that as well later and go into that more, but that is included under the language of 5611 as bulky items. And we've created these cards, or I created these cards to distribute in street engagement, because the ordinances really mean nothing or are worth nothing if the people that they're affecting the most don't know what they do and what they are, and it's not very clear from the language that's written, even if they can find the text. So our office started heading these out to city departments and anyone who engages and is proactive in our homeless community, so that they can better understand the changes that have recently been made. Another thing that happened recently was Mayor Garcetti signed Executive Directive number 16, which called on all city departments to identify a homelessness liaison and to develop protocol to connect residents to services, no matter what city department they walk into. So that's why we're calling it a no-rock-door approach. Every department is also required to produce plans by the end of June for how they will address homelessness. These liaisons will also form part of our homelessness cabinet. And like Molly said, our goal is just constant discussion and collaboration among all of our different departments, agencies, and organizations to address homelessness as a collaborative effort. And we're coordinating together to implement our strategies and problem solve issues as they arise, so we meet regularly. Oh, and encourage, sorry, you can move back. No, you can move forward. Encourage public participation. Daniel touched on this. One thing that we recently launched is the Welcome Home Project, which encourages Angelinos to host their friends and neighbors. And I think Daniel did a really excellent job of putting it in a nutshell. And it culminates in the June 18th big move-in. So all of the kits that are created at these house parties will be distributed from Mayor's Office volunteers to 100 houses that we've identified that have recently moved in with 100 households of homeless individuals and families that have moved in recently into new housing. I mean, it's a way to get more Angelinos talking about the issue in a way that's personal and removes stigma. So this is really important in the collaboration front as well. And another focus, the last one I wanted to talk about was
Before we move off of that,
yes.
the goal of 100, that's like, that was, you know, was being talked about, let's do 100, and that was a while ago.
I've been collecting the names and identifying families, and I have over 300 right now,
Yeah.
so there's a big need.
So there's no end to what we can do, all of us working together, everybody taking part.
Thanks, Daniel. And we're also trying to collaborate more with landlords. This is something that my colleagues touched on as well, that the demand is far outpacing the supply, and the supply that does exist needs to be open to those who need it. So we've launched an effort to motivate more landlords to take on individuals who are using vouchers, and we're doing that with advocacy, but also financial incentives. The Housing Authority of the City of LA has partnered with us to provide homeless incentive payments to provide landlords, has provided they've partnered with LAHSA, the LA Homeless Services Authority, to provide incentives of payments to provide landlords to house applicants from HACLA's homeless assistance, housing assistance programs. And the current incentive offered to landlords participating in the program is $1,100 per vacant unit held. So we're trying to get units open among the units that actually already exist, in addition to building the supply that we need to reach our goal. And that's it. You can feel free to contact Daniel or I with any questions as well.
I'm going to pass around this pad and a pen and this one over there. If you feel so moved, or at least if you want more, you want to have a conversation with me or Melissa about the Welcome Home Project, give me your name, email, and telephone number. Thank you.
Okay, and to let you all know, if you go onto our website, which is PPTFH.org, you will be able to find a resource list on which Daniel Tamm is, so you'll be able to reach him that way as well.